called the cola pod. What the cola pod is it's a container that fits between the bottles. So if you can imagine a case of cola, it has 12 bottles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 bottles. And that means there's 8 spots between the bottles. And so Simon's plan is, why not get Coca-Cola to agree that when they're delivering cola, they would also deliver something else. So in these containers, you could put useful things like medicine, or ballots, or condoms, or smelling salts, or HIV health information. There's all sorts of good things you could include, and then Coca-Cola would be thanked, would feel proud, would feel good about being part of this. And I'm proud to announce that Simon's just back from Africa 2 weeks ago, and he has succeeded unofficially to get the government of Zambia and Coca-Cola to agree to do this type of thing. He's succeeded. So way to go, Simon. And way to go, Simon, for being hopeful, because we can complain about what's wrong with the world, and we can complain about McDonald's and this and that, or we can do something about it. And Simon did something about it. Here's someone else who's doing something about it. This is a Chinese design student, a woman named Daisy Zheng. She studies in London, England, and she figured this. She said, if Coca-Cola is everywhere in the world, I'm going to invent a cellular phone that runs off cola. And this is what she's done. She's actually developed a cell phone battery that you pour Coca-Cola into, and it runs the phone. And that way, if the point is to get all of humanity on the internet, but there's no power everywhere, but there's cola everywhere, you'll be able to get your cell phone running. Well, she's not quite done, but she's confident that within 2.5 years from now, she'll have a prototype that's marketable. And by the way, it doesn't have to run on Coca-Cola. It's the carbonation. It can run on any soda water, any soda pop, so you can run orange, ginger ale, whatever flavor you prefer. And that gives me hope, because the thing is that the big brands, they've made a huge impact on our lives. And they can do bad things, like convince children that certain letters are owned by a corporation, or they can be included in doing good things. The power of typography is so much that I show you this ad, and of course it's not a real ad. It says, I miss my lung, which of course, but you all recognize the brand, right? And yet it doesn't say Marlboro anywhere. It doesn't say cigarettes anywhere. It doesn't have any features or benefits. It's just the power of typeface. And it's not just your designer eyes that do this. Common non-design people also recognize this typeface. They can't name it. When they see the typeface, they know what it means. And the power of brand is so much then that logos have become an international language that I can speak to you in. Even if my Bahasa Indonesia is poor, I can speak to you in brand language. And so what I've done here is I've taken all of these symbols, taken all the color out of them, and just taken a little piece to show you, and I wanted to see how many you'd recognize, but I've lost your attention. Okay, let's do this together. I want to see how many of these logos you can recognize going really fast, okay? Can you see that one?
Coca-Cola.
Yeah, okay.
Shell. Apple.
True.
Nike. Nike.
Yeah.
CBN.
CBS, yeah.
RCTI. Volkswagen.
Volkswagen.
Kantas.
Qantas Airlines.
Xerox.
Wow, Xerox.
FedEx.
Wait a moment, tricked you. That's not FedEx. That's just the letters F and E put together. That's the symbol for iron. Feria? Ferrum? But this is just FE set in futuro bold. Does this mean that every time you see the letters FE at the beginning of a word in a sans serif typeface, you think of the best, positively fastest way to get a package somewhere overnight? Does this mean that when your children are reading a book and they're learning how to read, every time they see FE, they're thinking about FedEx? I know that's funny, but isn't it kind of horrible too? Our minds are polluted with this information that may not be useful to them. Okay, let's go on. So the next one,
Playboy.
that's a useful thing to know. And
Ati.
this one,
Ati.
oh, good one. Okay, okay. That's right. Yeah.
NBS. NBC.
NBC. Yeah.
GE. IBM.
Yeah.
Um,
In Texaco.
Texaco.
You got them all. That's really good, but it's kind of really bad too, isn't it? The thing is, I don't have any problem with branding. I think branding's fantastic. Branding saves lives. This brand we all know. Everyone on the planet seems to know that if you need food, if you need medicine, if you're hungry, if you're being attacked, if there's a disaster, you know you run to this symbol or that symbol. And this brand is only 200 years old. Everyone on the planet knows it. So the power of brand is something we can use really well. The problem happens when we use our skills and opportunities as designers to help companies lie. This is the crux, because that is out of order. That is out of alignment with our principles. So, and it's not good business either. Telling the truth is good business. Look at this example. In the United States, instead of coming up with better cars, the car companies have annual myths they teach us. So one myth is that cars are toys. You should buy a car because it can go fast, and it can do loop-de-loops. And also the myth in the United States that you can drive and drive forever and never see another car. The cars are freedom. Well, I was in Jakarta the last 3 days, and I assure you, cars are not freedom. Here is what the Europeans did to try to sell their cars. Oh, if you buy this car, you'll have more sex. That's ridiculous. Especially in Jakarta, because you'll never get home. Meanwhile, the Japanese were busy building a better car, better design. And they came to the United States with the Toyota Camry. And today, the Toyota Camry is the best-selling car in the United States. And the Toyota Camry costs $3,000 more than the American competitive car. Which means that Americans have learned the value of good design. They recognize they'll pay $3,000 more for a car that is safer, and that lasts longer, and that's more fuel efficient. And Toyota doesn't change the design every year. It looks pretty much the same every year. It's better design, and it's the value of design, and it's more profitable. And if you work for clients like Toyota that tell the truth, you will be more profitable, you will be more sustainable, you will get more money. Instead, a lot of design is used to create trash, and the amount of bottled water in the world is a problem. But this is how bottled water was being sold in the 1970s. And this is how it's being sold today, by using women's bodies to sell water. And that disgusts me. It's bad enough that ad agencies are spending millions of dollars convincing us that we have to drink water out of bottles. But to start abusing women to do so really disturbs me. As a teenager, I don't know what she's doing with the bottle. But I look back in advertising history, and I go back 60 years. This is an ad that was in the United States' biggest magazine, Life magazine. This is a full-page ad for coffee. It says, if your husband ever finds out you're not store testing your coffee, he will beat you. And 60 years ago, this was considered a joke. And people say to me, David, come on, the world was different then. Back in the 1950s, every American man beat their wives. But that's not true. I think what's truer is that advertising like this was giving men permission to beat their wives. Advertising like this was saying to American men, this is normal. This is how you be a man. And when we see the advertisements up in the city square that show you to be a man is to smoke, it's the same problem. It's just subtler today. And indeed, there's a history of abusing women. And Now this type of advertisement looks very okay, except it suggests that the distance between the waist and the foot of a female, it's about, I think it would be about here. It makes no sense at all. And what does this tell our young women in our society? What does it say to them about how to be normal? That they're not supposed to eat? And when you have something as fantastic as a cell phone to sell, and this cell phone, it must have, this hand phone, it must have 150 features the advertiser could have told us about. All the wonderful things it can do. But instead, they come up with this ridiculous association of the phone and the woman. Now, the problem is, some products, there aren't better features. You know, for the cigarette, if you make a better cigarette, I guess you'd just kill off your audience faster. So that's not good. So for some products, the competition is public education. And indeed, the world is getting more aware. The biggest lawsuit in the history of the world was when American tobacco companies were sued in the court. The judge decided that they owed $196 billion in damages to the American people because they knew that cigarettes were addictive and they sold them anyhow. And I think it's just a matter of time before the government and the courts will turn to us as designers and say, hey designers, you were working for these cigarette companies, you read the creative briefs, you know what you were doing, so it's good business for us to do good. It's good for the planet that we do good, but it's good business to keep our standards higher than what society will expect of us. Now this is some work I'm very proud of because in Canada, we invented these type of warnings that appear on the outside of cigarette boxes. And already in Indonesia, you're seeing these texts that look like this on the outside of the boxes. But the laws that are being drafted last year in Indonesia will make it so that soon you'll have pictures as well on your cigarette boxes. And this is an idea we invented in Canada, and I'm very proud to see how it's spread around the world. It's a small idea, and very few people had it. And the thing is that it doesn't take a lot of people to create a small idea that changes the world. Because now we're doing the studies and we found that these anti-tobacco techniques are bringing down the level of smokers in Canada, especially amongst teenage girls who were the biggest problem. And so there's hope. There's hope for a better world. There's hope for awareness. I found this poster in a slum in Dar es Salaam in Africa, and it just gave me hope. And this is advertising agencies. You know, I don't mean to diss them. Advertising agencies are capable of doing great things. This is a poster that was designed in Africa, in Pretoria, in South Africa, by an ad agency there, because of the problem of the homeless being cold in the winter. But it was brilliant that they printed the ad on a blanket. So the posters themselves are blankets that are posted up around the city. And then when it's cold, a homeless person can take the blanket off the wall and just wrap themselves up in it. Now that, to me, is sustainable design. So good way to go, advertising agency. And the value of design has never been more apparent. When we look at these are business magazines from Europe and the United States and Canada, and they're recognizing the value of design.